Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Alex Yevlakhov, COO of Jumbo Exchange, the most UI and UX friendly AMM built on near. Alex, so excited to have you on the show, and always excited for anyone in the Web3 space because it's so new, it's so fresh, and also it's mature in the way that it's based on principles that have been around for a while, but used with new technology and new tools. And so really excited to hear about what you're building and kind of where Jumbo Exchange is going. But before we get into all that, how did you go from international relations graduate and master's degree to jumping into Web3 in 2016? What was the journey like for you during that time?
So, thank you for having me. First of all, I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to share my experience and how it basically shaped who I am right now and what I'm working on right now. So the journey for me started not so long ago. I'm quite young myself. I'm only 24. So the journey from being a bachelor graduate and being in the crypto space, in Web3 space, basically has taken a couple of months after my graduation. I would say
Yeah.
that I was quite lucky to join the Web3 army, so to speak, however cringe it may sound. So the my starting point was actually I just simply submitted my resume. I got an interview based on the experience that I had volunteering uh, in my uni with international relations. I have visited a lot of European countries. I've been to a lot of European countries in general, and I think it kind of helped me to have the needed experience, even though I didn't have a lot of experience within the crypto space before. Just in general, when you have a basis of some kind of conversational skills or this social kind of skills, I think it might even suffice to get into crypto even without knowing the all of the nuances, so to speak. So
Yeah.
that was basically me. I submitted resume and I got hired by EOS. It's blockchain. I'm not gonna go into details and promoting some blockchain that I don't have any affiliation to right now because they don't pay me. So that's basically how I started. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what from that experience in blockchain was exciting to kind of continue learning and iterating on not only the technology but also into what is Jumbo Exchange. What in particular kind of was inspiring and led you to continue forward and start building a company like Jumbo Exchange?
So it all starts with connections. So in Web3 space, I think the same goes for Web2 space and the internet in general. You build connections, you connect with people, you grow as an individual within the community, and then you kind of go from there. You start to meet people, you start to interact with a certain cohort of people that might be more influential, might be more experienced in what they do. You
Yeah.
interact with them, you communicate with them, you basically attend all of the crypto related informal meetings, if you know what I mean. And basically, you go from there. You meet just the people that you kind of want to meet, and in this circle, in this Web3 circle, because when I started in 2017, it was just around that time that crypto kind of peaked because of the bull market and market conditions in general. So it was quite easy to make connections because crypto was all around. You know, it was basically on everyone's tongue. So it was
Yeah.
quite easy to get into. So from there, I just got enough experience from my EOS job at EOS. I was basically tackling the validator stuff. Again, no need to go into details. I got to meet a lot of people there, and I met people who shared my view in terms of starting something new, branching out to build something ourselves, because I personally don't have any technical expertise to build or to develop anything. The only thing I'm capable of developing is an anxiety. That's basically that's where how I basically shaped myself at the
Yeah.
start.
Yeah. And as in terms of Jumbo Exchange and what the technology does, describe for our audience who doesn't know, what is an AMM in as it relates to crypto or in Web3 in particular, and what is Jumbo Exchange, and that's necessarily solving that hasn't been around or hasn't been done as well as maybe you're doing it now.
So, in plain English, AMM is automated market maker, which is a very glorified way to say that people trade with each other instead of trading on the centralized and kind of basically without having a mediator between people. They trade basically within within themselves. It's like peer-to-peer trading. However, you have also a liquidity pool. Liquidity pool is basically a pool where there is assets, two kind of assets, for example, Ethereum and Bitcoin, those two assets. And basically based on how the things are going in the pool, people trading, swapping, all of that stuff. So it's basically the same as, for example, you are trading on Binance, but instead of Binance having the oversight over all of your assets, you are basically at your own discretion, and you are at your own kind of, you have control over your assets, basically.
Gotcha.
So what we are building, go on.
Oh, I was going to ask before you move forward, and I think you might answer this question with what you were going to say, but is the typical way to trade kind of having a larger pool that a mediator kind of extracts from and does transactions through, versus is this, you actually trading with another individual who has that asset? And what are the benefits? Is it more liquid, or is it less regulated? Is there less fees involved? What in particular is the benefit of doing peer-to-peer transactions versus having, a mediator facilitate the whole process?
Yeah, so one of the benefits of DeFi in general is the fact that you can't when there is a smart contract means that there is a mathematical proof that you can't be deceived or scammed in any way. Based on how smart contract is written, you can't just manipulate smart contract and change it on the fly. So you can just, in the moment of transaction, you can just revert the transaction because you wanted to. So the idea is that it is immutable. So that's basically the definition of immutable. You can't change it when the process has started. So also, as you mentioned, regulations. DeFi right now, at least the majority of DeFi is unregulated, which means that you don't need KYC. There is no KYC. You don't need to provide your documents. You don't need to provide your IDs. What you need to do is basically to have a wallet. Wallet meaning the digital wallet where you store assets. You connect your digital wallet with assets to the DeFi protocol or decentralized exchange, and you start selling or in any way interacting with the decentralized exchange, whether it's buying or selling or any of that stuff. Yeah.
Got it. And then you're going to discuss Jumbo Exchange, and what in particular are you excited about that this technology is solving, and how is it going to improve the experience of trading with peer-to-peer?
So the first one is being not beholden to any third-party entity. That's the whole idea of DeFi, is that you are at your own. You have control over your assets. So what we're building is basically a decentralized exchange. That's basically what we have discussed before, just a couple of seconds ago. That's what we are building. We are building our decentralized exchange on a kind of niche blockchain. So all of the projects are built on blockchain. Blockchain is a ledger. It's basically a data storage where all of the transactions are stored, where all of the information is stored. So we are building it on the new blockchain called Near protocol. So that's one of the kind of outstanding features of our DEX, because as you might know, the kind of more popular blockchains such as Ethereum or BNB chain, they're more popular. However, we found that building on Near blockchain will be much more beneficial both to us from several standpoints, including the business side and the side of the prospects that we might have with this blockchain also growing. Because as blockchain grows, Near blockchain, the same growth applies also to our DEX, Jumbo Exchange. So how also several aspects that we kind of stand out, that is one of those is UI and UX. So as you might have noticed, a lot of DeFi protocols, they are kind of unwieldy. They are inconvenient. You need to know a lot of stuff beforehand. You need some kind of knowledge before you can even start to comprehending what the hell is going on there, and how not to get scammed. So that it requires a lot of prior knowledge to do so. So we are trying to lower the bar, the entry point for users to get into DeFi.
Yeah. And describe the process in kind of receiving a grant from Near, because, a lot of companies are doing this and to start building out products that are, I think, extremely extending the capability of blockchain, and also extending the access to users, like, the ones that you're talking about who maybe don't have the technical skill set, but have enough of the knowledge to be able to do trading and utilize the technology that's available. But what is it like with the process of getting a grant from Near? How does the process start? What are the terms that are essentially you kind of agree to with them? And then what's the follow-up look like? Is it like a regular, VC? Is it like a private equity? Is it like an angel investor? In comparison, what was that process like to receive that grant? And what are the conditions that come with it? As maybe companies out there who are listening might be interested in submitting, an application to receive a grant as well.
So the story with fundraising and applying for a grant and all of the business and the financial side of crypto and Web3 is very much peculiar, to say the least. So the whole Web3 kind of stands, or at least right now, on the informal side. So there are less formalities than there is in the traditional finance. So how it was for us personally, I had an opportunity to be directly involved in fundraising, in applying for a grant and receiving a grant and so on.
Yeah.
So how we received the grant was basically that we applied for a grant. There is a form, you applied for a grant, they review your project, they review the prospects, the viability, the ideas that you have, all of that stuff that goes on in whether you can be whether you can receive that financial assistance. So we applied. We received a response a couple of weeks later that yes, we are eligible. However, we need to certainly do KYC. It's a bit, strange that even in Web3 you need KYC at the fundraising stage, but it is what it is. So we had a call. We discussed the details, superficial details about who we are, how many people we employ, and all of that stuff. And basically, the transaction itself was blockchain transaction. So the money wire transfer of the funds was actually through blockchain. So everything is visible. That's also the advantage of blockchain when you are comparing it to the traditional finances. For example, when theoretically a Tesla acquires a company, you might not even know that because you can't see a transaction directly. So with blockchain, it is the other way. You can actually see when we received a grant. That grant also has to account for that grant. They have DAO, which is basically governance built on the idea that community decides who receives grant, or community takes direct part in who can receive grant, or is there enough of viability for this particular project to receive grant. So based on all of that aspects, we kind of were lucky. I'm not going to say that we are, some kind of geniuses. We were lucky because the market was at that condition where there was enough of funds and resources for blockchains like Near to facilitate the growth of their ecosystem. So that's how we received a grant from the start. Yeah, I think it was in December last year, 2021.
And are there
not
are
2022, 2021. Yeah.
yeah. And are there any conditions that, are specific to grants in general? Like, are there any check-ins? Do they offer support? What in particular is that relationship like with Near now?
So they have been very helpful because the first financial help and assistance that we have received was actually from them. So that kind of gave us the kickstart to proceed to fundraise, to follow up with the fundraising rounds. So what it helped us to do is basically to have trust from investors, from VCs, because they see that Near have given us grant, which means that we are at least not the low life scammers that usually crypto projects are associated with. So there is a certain trust aspect, and there is also an aspect that we have viability, and the project that we are building is actually will be helpful to the ecosystem in general. So from that point on, we started raising, and Near helped us in a way that they connected us with VCs. So one of our major VC is Pantera. They are, I think, multi-billion investment fund. They are specifically centered around crypto, Web3. So they were one of the first ones who joined our investor board, so to speak. They are leading investor for us, and Near definitely helped us to connect with them to establish the first line of communication.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what one relationship can lead to, and a lot of founders talk about that experience where you have kind of one connection or one relationship or one round of funding with a certain investor or a grant, and then it kind of or you went through an accelerator. Sometimes they go through, and then all this kind of cascades into other relationships that ended up kind of giving you more runway, giving you more life, and maybe even the opportunity to start building more specific parts of your product or your business. And with the crypto landscape changing so drastically within the last year, what is the landscape now in terms of building, and how is your focus, if it has changed to kind of address this new bear market? And are you preparing and strategically kind of setting yourself up to maybe seeing some growth in this coming year? Well, how's the landscape changed from before, and how are you going to address the challenges that you face today?
I think it is evident and kind of self-explanatory why raising right now might not be a good idea in Web3. There is a lot of commotion and there is a lot of distrust, at least for the short term, that is right now. I wouldn't advise to seek a direct investments or seek fundraising at this moment in time, simply because of that. in general, those big VCs, they're still on the other hand, those big VCs, they're still seeking new investments, simply because it is exactly the time when it is bear market, or when the market is at the lowest. It's exactly the time when the projects with a lot of prospect shine, because they definitely shine through with not only with marketing and kind of business standpoint, but they shine with technical aspects. So they have something to show, and they're certain of that. So VCs seek exactly those projects that innovate, even at these kind of market conditions. So would I advise to raise right now if you can wait? I think no. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of the, in Jumbo Exchange, has the market changed kind of how you're heading the company or leading it in a direction, and what's changed in that respect?
So we kind of, when you are in Web3, you expect that there are cycles of market being up, market being down. So you need to always be prepared for the worst. And if the worst doesn't come, you still prepared for the worst because it comes eventually. There is no escape. So we acknowledge that, thanks to the prior experience in the 2017, in the 2018, when market slammed. So we knew that we need runway. So we didn't go on the rampage of spending, tons of funds and resources from the get-go on marketing, on basically on the things that are, in our opinion, would be damaging to the survivability of the project. So we knew that we need runway. So when you start your Web3 startup, you need to think not in short term or even mid term. You need to think at least 2 years forward, because there is when the market is up, you rarely think about what can happen when the market is down. That's just a human nature, You don't think too forward. You tend to think more present than far to the future. But when it's in Web3, you definitely need to think about the upcoming market conditions.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges that Jumbo Exchange faces today, outside of the market kind of fluctuating, which sounds like it's just kind of the name of the game, the landscape that you have to deal with. But other than that, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face?
The biggest challenge, I think it has always been in crypto and in Web3 space, is hiring the right people. Because most of the people, when they hear Web3 and they haven't had much experience, or even people who have much experience, they tend to have agenda. So what I mean by that is they have expectations. Some of those expectations might be malicious. Either they want to exploit your project, they want equity that is too high because they want that equity, they want to get that equity and basically sell it off. So you definitely need to pick and choose who you hire in the team. And in our case, it is quality over quantity. And it is also difficult to begin with. When you are hiring people, you kind of have trouble to hire specifically Web3 oriented developers, because there are not that many Web3 oriented developers. What you need to do, and what we did, we hired, for example, C++ developers that we helped to transition to Rust, which is a language written on Near that you build smart contracts with. So we hired C++ developers and we helped them transition with their knowledge of C++, their logic. We helped them transition to the to Web3 world. So that's what we did. if you are seeking only developers specifically for your needs in Web3, you will have hard time because there are not many developers, and those developers that are there for for long, they might have again agendas. So you
Yeah.
need definitely to select your crew very carefully. Yeah.
I've heard this time and time again. I run a recruiting agency, and we help a lot of Web3 companies hire. We've helped like Stellar and things along that nature. And that's the common theme is originally a lot of them were hiring for developers with, proficiency in Solidity and Viper and Solana and all these other languages. But now it seems more common to what you're saying, where it's like hire a developer with a really strong skill set in adjacent technology, whether it's C
Yeah.
or Rust or and then kind of work them up to developing within the framework that you've built internally. And it seems to be working. But I guess my question to you is how do you assess for quality? And what is the process like? Do you have something that's pretty structured, or are you still kind of in the process of refining the overall recruitment process?
Yeah. So I would say our approach is more spontaneity. So we don't adhere to any strict rules or strict questioning like what's your weakness or what's your what's your strength.
Yeah,
It's just in general you talk to the person. You in general you can see what the person is like from the first 10 minutes of the conversation. You get the very general, but still a feeling whether he or she is a fit for the job. So in terms, again, it is in terms of social interaction, quality and social qualities in general, a character of a person. When it comes to the technical aspect, it's usually not my job to create a technical test. I usually just conduct the basic of again figuring out whether they will be a fit character wise, and the technical test is usually composed by our CTO.
I was gonna say it seems like an orchestration of multiple pieces that allow you then to kind of identify. But as you were saying, there's two stages. Please continue.
Yeah, two stages. Basically, you have the character, figuring out the character of a person and qualities. And the second is basically the vapid and insipid technical
Yeah.
test that they do on their own. So that's our strategy. And I think right now we have a team. We have a small team compared to some of the big players. We have 11 people right now. And how do you know it's a small team? Is when you know everyone's name. So when it is a big company, you usually don't even notice when there are 10 people joining in, and you don't even know what's their name. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I can assuredly say that we have a small team.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely the process of growth is interesting, especially kind of keeping a cohesive team around. And I guess if everything goes well, what's the long-term plan for or long-term vision for Jumbo Exchange?
So right now we are focusing on two things. Internally, we definitely focusing on the Jumbo Exchange itself, but we also acknowledge the fact that near blockchain and our success directly is influenced by near blockchain, the native blockchain that we build on. So our current strategy is basically twofold. First, building Jumbo Exchange and layering features on, and the second is facilitating the growth of near blockchain itself. So how we do that is basically we partnered with Near Foundation. It's basically the how do you explain that? It's basically a foundation that distributes resources to the whole ecosystem. So they basically are the head of resources within the Near blockchain, Near Foundation. So we partnered with them. We partnered with several VCs, and we will be helping new projects to be onboarded on Near blockchain. So we will help them to get into Near, we will help them to establish their name on Near, and we will help them with exposure to those VCs that we are connected with. We will share our knowledge, we will share our contacts, connections, and so on, and we will help them to get into Near, which means that Near will expand, will grow, and which means that we also will grow in turn. So it's kind of an effect that you help to build your own native blockchain, which in turn helps you to build your own decentralized exchange and our project. So that's kind of the layers there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible to see kind of the way it's going to manifest and grow from having the foundation backing, but also building the technology and then adding others to be incorporated in that. What's particularly hard about your job?
Again, when you have a small team, you kind of have you don't have titles as you have in traditional work environment. Like, for example, you have CEO, CTO, COO, chief or executive officers, and so on. So we kind of build our team on the non-hierarchical way. So, for example, me, I usually deal with both business development and internal team settlement of all kinds. For example, when someone needs to talk about the promotion, that's me. Also, I talk with the guy, with the girl. So there is no particular strict titles. My job usually involves talking to the projects, talking to the ecosystem, talking with the Near, talking with the VCs, establishing all of the business development stuff also, and managing internally the team members. It has become quite difficult to manage some of the team members simply because we have a couple in Ukraine. So a couple of our team members are in Ukraine. So they are definitely kind of mentally drained, and you definitely need a lot of talking to do with them to have them at their full. So that has been also quite a challenge to manage internally the team spirit, so to speak.
Oftentimes founders talk about maintaining the culture and the motivation is a huge key component to the success outside of building and fundraising and all these other aspects and client acquisition. It's really creating a healthy team environment and continue fostering trust and motivation. And it's a difficult process, but I think those who can overcome the challenge end up being extremely successful. It seems like in repetition from what I've seen. And another question I'd love to ask is, if you weren't working on Jumbo Exchange, what would you be doing?
I would probably be working in traditional finance. I think I would probably be in some kind of environment. I would be wearing suits, and not just sitting here in my sweater. So I don't want to envision that kind of reality where I actually wear suits and where I actually go to office to work and to speak with dejected colleagues. So I don't want to envision that. But I think that would be my kind of parallel universe. But I don't want that.
I always like to ask that question because it always throws founders off. I think we're always so invested into what we're doing currently that it's nice to kind of think of an alternative universe in that respect. I know we're coming up close to the end of the episode here, so I do want to ask you, whether it was early in your career or now, what books or people have influenced you the most or impacted you the most during your journey?
In terms of books, I don't really like to read more self-help books. I'm more of a fan of traditional literature. So I like German authors. I like and a lot of German authors in general. Kafka is my favorite. I also like the psychology and just in general learning about the philosophy of people, their personal individual philosophy, not philosophy in the comprehensive kind of way. So I like to read Edward Becker. I like to read some of the stuff from
Yeah.
Eric Fromm. So I definitely like to read a lot about psychology and personal philosophy, and not get, because when it's personal philosophy, it kind of tends to go into self-help. That I don't dabble in.
I love that. It's a fun question to ask founders because some are heavy into fiction, nonfiction, some dedicate themselves to startup books, but it's always cool to see a
Yeah.
broad stroke of the information that's gathered. And I think it's refreshing to see, when people work outside of their domain, and learn outside of their domain. I think it kind of creates a holistic.
Yeah, I think if people were to see my kind of reading list, they would think I'm not know me. I think they would think that I'm like 70 years old, you know. That's kind of,
A literature professor.
yeah, that startles me sometimes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's pretentious, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Alex, thank you so much for being on the show. And I do want to leave a little bit of spot right here for your plugs. Give us, where we can find you, where we can be a part of the technology, your LinkedIn's, your websites, your Twitters, wherever we can be a part of Jumbo Exchange, and maybe even
Yeah.
trade on the platform as well.
So all you need to do is go to Google and type in Jumbo Exchange. That's basically it. You can also visit Near, near.com, if I'm not mistaken. You go to the near.com if you want to build something, or if you are passionate about blockchain technology. You should look into Near. You should look into Jumbo Exchange if you want to speculate on the current market conditions. And if you want to just savor the decentralized exchange and DeFi in general, go to Jumbo Exchange. And if you want to know more about us, you can also go to our Telegram, go to our LinkedIn, go to our all of these social websites by just simply going to our main website. And from there, you can basically get to know everything about us.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Alex, again, thank you so much for being on the show and walking me through not only where the current state of Jumbo Exchanges, but kind of the broader state of building in Web3 and kind of the whole relationship with Near and how that's kind of compounded, to not only introduce more relationships to you, but also to grow and scale your business as well. And I'm excited to see what comes of Jumbo Exchange in the future, but I hope you enjoyed yourself. And again, thank you so much for being on the Behind Company Lines podcast.
Thank you. Likewise. Yeah, it was great talking to you.
Awesome.